This is the third paddle by 11Six24, the Hurache-X. Their first paddle, the YSF, was a regular Gen 2 thermoformed, while their following paddle, the Hurache, was just a regular Gen 1 control paddle, though both are priced at low price points to make them stand out. Now with the Hurache-X, 11Six24 has released another Gen 2 paddle, but they've made some minor changes that do make this paddle stand out a bit more in the market than its previous two offerings. First off, let's take a look at the paddle dimensions. The Hurache-X has a curved top, though it's not a hybrid paddle but an elongated one. The length is 16.5 inches, width is 7.5 inches, core is 16 millimeters, and the handle is on the longer side at 6 inches. Also, as mentioned earlier, this is a unibody Gen 2 paddle, so it does have the edge foam in the perimeter to expand the sweet spot. The swing weight of mine came in at 118, with a twist weight of 6.35. The swing weight is in a spot where it's higher than most of the hybrid paddles and in a lower end of the spectrum for elongated paddles, while the twist weight is about average. The unique thing about the Hurache-X is the paddle surface. Most Gen 2 paddles use layers of carbon fiber on top of the honeycomb core, but the Hurache-X opted to go with something called CFC. Instead of 3 layers of carbon fiber, they use 1 layer of carbon fiber, followed by a layer of fiberglass, and then finished off with a final layer of carbon fiber as the topmost layer. For those of you unfamiliar between the two surface materials, carbon fiber surfaces provide more control than fiberglass, as they give players a softer and more muted feel. The ball tends to dwell on the surface longer of a carbon fiber paddle, whereas balls shoot off the paddle face more quickly off fiberglass, making carbon fiber surfaces more suited for control. So how does the CFC surface actually play on a Gen 2 paddle? For starters, it ends up giving the ball more pop and power compared to the other Gen 2 paddles that only use carbon fiber in the surface. The only Gen 2 I would say has more pop than the Hurache-X is the 6-0 Black Diamond Power, which has a raw fiberglass surface. What's surprising though is the feel of the Hurache-X, as you would expect it to have a stiffer feel from the fiberglass layer. It actually has a nice feel to it, where I think it feels even more plush than something like the 6-0 Double Black Diamond or the Volare Mach 1 Forza. To me, it feels like the ball dwells a bit from that first carbon fiber layer and then pops off quickly from the fiberglass underneath, giving it a slightly unique feel, but that's just my guess as to what's happening, but I do think it doesn't have too stiff of a feel. As for the power of the paddle, I place this on the higher end because that 6-inch handle allows for extra torque when hitting baseline drives, an effect you get from many of the other long-handled paddles on the market. And combined with fiberglass in the face, I would put the power of this paddle up there with the rectangular-shaped elongated paddles that have higher swing weights than it. I think the Control Plus should be removed from its name, since the paddle isn't soft like the Gen 1 Hurache. I would definitely classify this more as a power paddle. The sweet spot and stability are comparable to other paddles with that similar curved top shape, which makes sense since the twist weight numbers are about average. Same with how I feel about the spin generation. It seemed in line with the other Gen 2 paddles to me, so nothing there really stood out. The Hurache-X is a paddle that's been popular with several other paddle reviewers and has been showing up quite a bit recently on social media. People have said that it's basically a juiced up Double Black Diamond, and I do agree. To me, it plays like a hybrid paddle with more pop and more power generation from its longer handle, but also with a slightly higher swing weight and a nice feel to it that isn't too stiff. It's not crazy different or anything, but it does have a good feel to it that's made it easy for players to pick up and transition to. I do think it's an interesting idea from 11Six24 to test out the face layers this way, and I think it would be fun to explore other layer combinations in the future, like changing the placement of the fiberglass layer, having 2 layers of fiberglass with 1 layer of carbon fiber, or by mixing in something different like Kevlar into the layers. The Hurache-X is also priced pretty low at $140. And this drops even lower with discount code DMVPBall, where the price becomes $130. If you do want to pick one up, I've added a link to the video description below where you can buy this paddle.